You know why you clicked this, so let's dive right into this advanced guide for Millia. This will be part one of a two-part guide, and we're going to be going over meter usage, expanding your knowledge of her disc set play, and other techniques that will elevate your Millia to a higher level. Alright, so starting right off, we're going to be going into dash, roam, and cancels as part of meter usage. Hopefully you've gotten a little more cozy with them since the last guide. They are fantastic for Millia in both neutral and in her combo game. To cut out saying dash all the time, we're just going to say the direction the dash goes, such as forward RC or up RC, etc. Starting off with up RC, of course, this queen of the air loves bringing people high. Up RC is fantastic for getting a combo punish off of a grab. Even though the scaling might not be phenomenal, still, a combo off grab, we love to see it. Now, one of the best combos to learn using up RC is off of an early hit, such as your bad moon. You do up RC into a jumping dust, jump, then slash, fall with your slash, and it will allow you to get a close slash on the ground. The options you can get off this are phenomenal because you can do stuff as like your hair car so that you can get a knockdown to go into disc, as well as other options we'll expand upon further in this guide. Okay, forward RC, this you'll probably use a lot. This is how you can pick up things like getting the far hit of your hair card to actually continue a combo, along with if you do a light disc and either it combos, you do a forward RC and then you can go into an air combo, or if the opponent's blocking, you forward RC and it lets you keep up your pressure sequence and still have it be your turn. This also works in any kind of normal grounded block string, including using Lust Shaker, which we're just going to take a moment to say in the most recent patch, this move got buffed and is very usable now. Well, it was before, but it was something that felt like it needed to be saved for advanced. Now, however, it comes out much faster, so this move can be used to make some of your block strings relatively safe because it will push them away and use it to chip out the opponent or drain their meter. If they don't want to take the chip damage, this thing eats up tension during faultless defense like crazy. Anyway, to cap off this dash RC intro, dash RCing her heavy disc can also give you even stronger mix-ups, such as potentially double air dashes across or using her descent down to mix up sides. There are lots of possibilities here, so do not be afraid to experiment. Like, one thing many people aren't aware of is that you can actually get a blue Roman cancel instead of a purple one at the cost of an air action. This is great because the time slowdown on a blue Roman cancel is stronger than a purple, and the first hit that you do against an opponent will leave them kind of frozen in midair. Millia having two air dashes can take advantage of this immensely. Like I said, don't be afraid to experiment. There's a lot to find here. Next, we finally are going into her supers in combos. Now, her angel wings, this is pretty much just a finisher. It does the most damage, does do the hard knockdown, but you have to be careful. If the opponent's wall splatted too high, they will actually fall out of the final hit, and it's really not worth it. Septum Voices, however, this what we'll call special disc, this one's incredible. It causes the opponent to rise up so you can run in and follow up for a combo. Now, this is a very tight timing. You have to run in, do a crouching slash, crouching heavy slash, followed by the card to net you a very long traveling combo. Now, you can go into this move from any of your normals, including crouching dust. So sometimes instead of taking what would have been, a small little amount of damage into a pressure setup, you'll actually be able to turn that situation into massive damage. Do not beat yourself up for not getting this first try. It is pretty hard. The best thing I can offer you is get used to using the down motion that you have to get your crouching dust to be a part of the first quarter circle forwards, and then the second one is when you come out with a move. Because of its projectile nature and the just nature of its input, I would recommend this being the one that you use to break the wall when starting out, as running up and doing the angel super is viable. However, this has the most opportunity to fail and get you punished with what might come out after. So definitely push to learn that, but don't be afraid to throw out the Septum Voices. It's so good. This is also a really good transition into our next section, which is about disc knowledge, because Septum Voices goes into a different kind of knockdown than the hair car would, so there are some times where you would rather put that out instead of going into the Iron Maiden hair car. Disc knockdowns effectively have two different kinds, meaty and not meaty. Now, meaty in fighting games is the idea of having a hitbox out when the opponent stands up, effectively jailing them. This is very strong because a move with air invincibility doesn't have invincibility to this, so a thing like a 6P will actually get punished if the opponent tries to do it in these scenarios. You will get meaty discs off of a crouching dust, as well as her Septum Voices, and some specific scenarios like an aerial counter hit of 6P in the corner. Now, because they're standing up the moment that the disc becomes active, you can't land and hit them with an aerial if you don't do a dash or anything like that. However, you can throw one out as a visual bait to try and maybe make an unknowledgeable opponent 6P and then get punished by the disc. Doing knowledge checks, especially ones like these that are safe against an opponent, are really good for cluing you into what they know and therefore can inform you on how to construct your game plan going forward in the match. Speaking of knowledge, shoutouts to Alex and Bradley Schaffer. I really hope I'm getting your guys' names right. We talked a little bit in the comments of the last Millia guide. It was incredibly helpful for teaching me how to better convey information and even taught me some new things. So for example, your moves cannot stuff an invincible reversal. You can stuff the opponent messing up the input, but they will always win if they execute it. At least that's the only mindset I can comfortably advise. I've tried this with many different DPs, invincible reversals. Sometimes it seems like you can get a safe jump, but reliably it's best to just assume that the invincible reversal will be throwing out a move. So a common thing you can try to make them mess up is air dashing across the opponent on these meaty discs, so that people like Chips, Soul, they mess up their DP motion because you change the sides. However, if they do predict this, they can input it the opposite direction and it will come out and stuff you. However, once again, just landing will beat an option like that, or air dashing away. Both work. Now, the other kind of discs are late discs, so ones that occur after the opponent's already stood up. Now, these are the more common ones that you'll get off of a grab, that you'll get off of doing your hair car, stuff like that. And these have different timings depending how much you delay the input or the distance to them. So this is much more subjective and you'll have to play to really get a feel of the timings for it. Now, keep in mind that the longer the delay is, the more susceptible you are to 6Ps. However, as I was informed in the comments, you can actually meaty a 6P from a grab. It requires a tight timing for a jumping heavy slash, but definitely worth learning. Now, let's add some more options into your game plan. So we've talked about attacks mainly in the singular. You dash over, do a JH, or you land with an attack. Simple, right? Well, don't forget you can always do air dashes to make it a double overhead, or even throw out the moon for a triple overhead. Now keep in mind, you can be punished again during these gaps, but as long as you're mixing up all these options, the opponent shouldn't safely be able to guess. They have to read you. And don't forget that once you've conditioned them to block, landing and grabbing always works wonders. Now we'll be expanding upon this disc Oki even more in the part 2 of the guide, but there are a couple things that first you need to master. The first is using FD to halt your momentum and fall faster. Now, just by flashing Faultless Defense for even a moment, you'll increase the fall speed of your character. This is really important for Millia because after you do an air dash, you can FD and land even quicker. Now, given what we've talked about, you may see where we're going with this. However, right now, just practice getting the FD to come out as soon as you finish a dash. If you do it too early because you're pressing 2 attack buttons, you will get the move to come out. Do your best to practice just getting the flash of green. And of course, keep in mind that even if minuscule, it will require a little bit of meter, so be careful with that. The other mechanic to practice is fast RCing. Now, this is a timing that is universal across all moves, but gets even more complicated when you try a forward fast RC or an up fast RC, that kind of thing. For now, practice just neutrally. Roman cancel and cancel it with a jab, then a slash, then a heavy slash, whatever the move is, get used to pressing the different buttons. Just like we broke down all the different dash RC options in this guide, we're going to be breaking down a lot of different applications for this in the next one, so practice it. Quickly now, I want to bring up a technique that is very important to Millia, but I think is used in the wrong way many cases for beginner players. After the first hit of forward heavy slash, you are technically in the air, so you can air dash cancel into many of your different moves. The two common options that come out of this, and I'm guilty of using the first one a lot, is you can bad moon to get a surprise overhead on the opponent, or you can zip down to try and get a grab. Now, that's like a once a game kind of thing you throw out against someone. However, it is incredibly punishable. Both hits of heavy slash can be blocked high, so the opponent should be standing against it. And the grab, I mean, they can grab you first, or they can throw out a move, and you're giving up a whole pressure sequence because of that, especially after the buff to Lust Shaker. However, this is really important if you want to end with a super against your opponent, because if they get wall splatted, you can cancel into that dive during the little freeze frame and then input the super after. So very good to know. The final concept we're going to talk about is very game plan related, and it's this idea of potential damage versus max damage. And with the emphasis I gave it, max damage, people always think that's the best, you know, the most damage you can squeeze out of a combo. However, that's the most damage that's guaranteed. But there are times where we can net more than the max damage by tilting the odds in our favor and taking a little bit of a risk. Because combo scaling always resets at the start of a new combo, sometimes instead of, let's say, doing hair cars so that in the corner you can wall splat and then do whatever, you could instead just go into a heavy disc and begin pressure setup. Or if you catch someone with a close slash while they're airborne, you can jump up and do some air dashes to mix up and start a whole new combo sequence. Hey, I mean, this is great off that bad moon combo we did in the beginning with the up RC. By doing a new thing, you're throwing even more balls that the opponent has to mentally juggle about what to expect. Alright everyone, part 2 is on the way. That will feature much more high level combos. We'll be applying those fast RCs and learning even more things to do off counter hits and more. Well, I really hope you guys learned something good today. I enjoyed making this a ton. Please subscribe, like, whatever you can to help support the channel grow as I try and turn it into a full-time thing. It means the world. So thank you, seriously. Hope you're all doing awesome, and I will catch you next time. Peace!